Hey folks, I want to do a video here today on my Ninja 1000 ABS. It's a 2018 model. I haven't done a video in a long time, and I figured I'd do one. And the most interesting stuff I got going on right now is just basically this bike and the stuff I've done to it to make it more ergonomic for touring around on a sport-oriented bike. So this is a great machine right here. Like I'm really enjoying it. I've done a few modifications, not a lot, to make this thing a bit more ergonomic and useful for the type of shorter touring around I do on a lot of backcountry roads and stuff. And I just can't talk enough about how I like this machine. So let's just start out with the ram mount, pedestal mount there. You can see I did that pretty early on. It's not straightforward like the directions say on how to mount this guy on this particular bike if you're using that stem mount. Jonathan Long has a channel I've mentioned before. I've done a couple of these videos. This is gonna, like, I've deleted them and this is gonna be the newest one. He did a video on how he did it, and basically I copied what he said, and that's about the most straightforward and the best way to do it on that particular Kawasaki type setup. So that works well. I like that ram mount and that orientation. You might notice I painted the inside of that windscreen flat black because one of the problems with this bike is the sun reflecting off the whole instrument panel. That had to be dealt with. That's one of the dislikes about this model, I guess. It's fairly substantial. This did help quite a bit depending on how you're oriented to the sun, and you don't have to look through this really ever, so it's okay to be black. And it looks decent on the bike. Picks up a good front sheen. You know, matches the bike pretty well. This quick charge 3.0 charger USB was done right at the same time as the RAM, so I can charge the iPhone on there. And that does work great. This quick charge 3.0 is fast. This was like $20 off of Amazon, I think. So we can move on to the heated grips is the last mod I've just done for this spring riding season. These Oxford Sport style heated grips, along with these HVMP bar end weights. I wasn't initially going to change the bar end weights, but these stock bar end weights with this Phillips head screw from the factory looks like garbage, and it was pretty messed up. And if you go to change these, realize that they're red Loctited from the factory, and that sucks. What I did was put a heat gun on there until it was kind of hot, too hot to touch, and then it broke free. But it's pretty easy to ruin those Phillips heads, so be careful. These are just the heavy weights, not the extra heavy, and they seem to do a pretty good job. I wanted to keep the vibration down as much as possible for riding, and this texture on these sport grips is nice. They feel pretty durable, like they'll last a long time too. I was able to get the stock grips off without destroying them as well. The only issue I had was this this side. It's got kind of a larger gap here, which it doesn't really bother me, but if there's like you can leave it stock, split it, or then cut it here. There's like 3 different lengths to fit the different model bikes. And this one rubbed on the bar end weight, so I had to go with a shorter cut. So I mean, but you got like this much, you know, play, so it dragged, and you can't have your throttle drag. And as well, when I trimmed down all the lines and stuff in the back ring with a razor blade off this grip thing, boy, it fit just perfectly, but not enough to let rubber cement work. So I had to use super glue in this guy. So if I take that off, it's going to end up probably ruining the grip tube. I don't know. But it seems pretty good. And I indexed it with a couple dots of white paint there to make sure if it ever starts to move, I'll be able to see it and, you know, figure out what's going on and limp home or something. I figured I should keep track of that, though. But these things are great. This, you can see how I mounted this guy on this top bolt. And I just used the double-sided tape, and I mean, it's rock solid. It's great. This Oxford setup was awesome. The only issue I had with the Oxford stuff was rooting it was kind of a nightmare, and keeping it out of the way. It's all zip tied, and I got some black electrical tape holding one wire thing down. Oh, it's the power wire that comes up. Keeping that where it is. I need to get a black zip tie, and I'll fix that. But I lost one of the little silicone O-rings for these connectors. You got to pay attention. Those come off really easy when you're unpackaging the whole product. And I think it just fell off and I didn't notice. But the lady I called the company, and it's a really nice English accented lady, had them send me a new little O-ring out of Florida, and I just replaced it today, so that it only took like 4 days maybe. But so that's like my cockpit modifications I've done, and boy, the heated grips, I usually only run at 1 or 2, maybe 3 power, and you can see that how high they go, and they're plenty warm for riding in like 46 to 55 to 60 degrees. I don't really go out if it's below 46 because my leather jacket is vented and perfed, so you get kind of cold. But they're great. They up your riding comfort, just enough to make a cooler temperature livable. Your hands aren't throbbing off. They're great. So what else have I done to this thing? Right off the bat, I put in this different tail light. That's it's like an LED blinky thing. It's pretty cool. I did that just for rider safety and stuff. It's real bright. You can adjust it all. I can't remember the company right off the bat, but you'll be able to find it. You look at it. There's only a couple companies making them for this bike, and you'll be able to see what that is. And that thing's pretty awesome. You can see it good. It works great. I did replace the front signal. Where's it in the camera here? Oh, there we go. The front signal light bulbs with these LEDs. It was like $50 for the set, but man, those are great too. They're super bright, and they work really good. There's not a lot of other things I've done to this bike to make it really great for touring in like more of a sports fashion. It's not something I'm gonna ride for 5-6 hours at a time, but the very best upgrade you can do for this is the tires. If for some reason you got you bought a Ninja that has S20s on, I know they're an old model, but man, they're over there, junk now. I got about 3,000 miles out of those, but I thought they were decent until I replaced them with these S21s this spring, okay? Which I know they're a model that's discontinued now, but it's because of this stupid sickness going around here. I couldn't get an S22. But I'll tell you what, these things are a world different compared to the old S20s. These S21s are awesome. Man, the bike went from like, man, I can't even describe how much better they are. It's like a fighter jet now. It handles so well. I think the old ones are too squishy. The carcass wasn't strong enough for the bike or something. Because this is a fairly heavy bike. It's like around 500, a little over 500 maybe. That's one of the only complaints I have about it. They could lighten it up. You can lose about 18 pounds changing these out quick with like some Akrapovic megaphones, but I don't want to waste $600+ for just that. But these S21s are pretty impressive. I can't wait to try the S22s actually. You can see I try to pay attention to Dave Moss's suspension adjusting and get a nice clean line on my chicken strips there. He does a good job at telling you how to adjust suspension and to get your bike in great handling performance. I had to do that. I'm a fairly heavy dude. I had to work on my suspension on this. If I got a 6-pack going, I still weigh just near 220, so I'm fairly heavy. Definitely need suspension work. And so I have this turned up with quite a bit of preload. But it handles well, really well actually. So yeah, if you have a chance to purchase one of these used with low miles, and save some money, man, it's a great bike. I wouldn't shy away from getting one of these. I don't have a lot of miles on this at all yet, but I bought it as a leftover new I only got almost 3,300 on it. But wow, it's an awesome machine. I don't like it as good as the ZX14R. I rode one of those for a couple rides, and man, that thing was tremendous. That thing was great. This doesn't have the wind protection the ZX14R does, or the remarkable smoothness, but this bike is definitely a little sportier, a little more flickable. But the 14R is just it's like a road Cadillac, but man, it's substantially more expensive. I didn't want to pay for it, but so I'll do my job, like I said, slamming Watertown Power Sports in Watertown, New York, who damaged the rims on this bike when they changed the tires for me. I told them I'd post something about it, and I'm finally getting around to it. And they damaged this rim 180 degrees apart. I put a little touch-up paint on both the spots. There's the one's directly across, so I can find it again. It's a pretty good gouge, though. There it is. Pretty substantial gouge in my rim from Watertown Power Sports, New York State. And when I called them, I couldn't bring them in because of the sickness. I couldn't go in there, and it was a hassle, and I had to make an appointment, and I didn't fucking take pictures of the rim and shit. Excuse my language, but this still makes me angry. And so I took them back home, started putting them on the bike, and then I felt it while I was putting it on the back, and called them up and said, "Hey, you guys damaged it," and they said, "Nope, it wasn't us. Our machine has plastic on it." And that's a lie, because obviously you see my really expensive 69 Charger here with a 493 big block in it that I built myself, Indy heads. It's like a $20,000 engine. And I lost my temper and started screaming at the guy, the owner, and he told me it was pretty funny that I called him once I got home, and he blamed me for doing it instantly. They refused to take any responsibility and said I did it. And I said I took it to them specifically because they were supposedly had a machine that wouldn't damage my rims, but even when I bought this bike from them, so they're complete shitbags, and don't ever go to Watertown Power Sports by Fort Drum in New York State, because they're a piece of garbage. The owner, Jack, is a total piece of dog shit. But anyway, here's a great bike. Pick one up. Apparently the 2020 model has cruise control and TFT screen. I've seen them on YouTube already. I mean, I know this is kind of an old bike for a video, but still relevant. And they got a quick shifter for the new model. They really hit it out of the park with that new model. I'm sure I would love to pick one up, but this, why would I change out now just to not have to use a clutch? But this bike works with a Woodcraft stand. I know it's kind of hard to, excuse me, a lot of people don't say the pit bull won't really work on the front of this bike, I guess. But as you can see, the Woodcraft stand works well, and it clears the that distribution block for the brakes with whatever that's a big pin. It's like 27 millimeter maybe. I don't exactly remember, but it's a large, huge pin. But the Woodcraft stand works. You got to be mindful when you put it on not to bump anything, but it fits in there and it lifts the bike pretty easily, and it works great. In the back, I used a pit bull stand with an extended handle on those spools. I also put on there early. Yeah, so here's that. Talk about awesome. That chain adjuster is the best. That is great. Awesome design. So quick and easy to deal with. So anyhow, this is a great machine. Pick one up if you're shopping for a used bike. These 2018 models are killer. I'd buy one. But used, as long as the mileage was good and the bike was clean. Pick it up, do some mods on it. It's not like a super touring bike for wind bubble protection, and keeping you nice and warm all the time. It's not really like that, but it's not really about that either. It's being able to tour on a bike that's still muscly and sporty, but it does a pretty good job of working both worlds, with the risers, and it's fairly low geared, so it's easy to, do maneuvers and stuff around town. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.